It's lighter, it's less dense, it's less durable, and because of that, it has needed to be treated. It has needed to be treated synthetically. I'm not sure what they used. I think the tag says. I'm not sure where the tag is. I think there's a tag under this one. So I asked, because when I was going to school with sustainable urban landscape stuff in the OH program at Cuyamaca, right? They tell us, if you can avoid it, it's a more sustainable option, right? It's the healthier option. If you're going to be using it for food, especially. Check that out. Copper azole. Ground contact. As in, it won't rot. But if you can tell, this thing is already warped just with the humidity. Something that wouldn't happen with redwood. This thing is already warped. It's just been sitting there, and there's no weight or anything on it. It's just been sitting there. So it's been copper treated, probably like copper sulfate, I don't know, right? And copper has an effect on plant growth in certain compounds, right? So that the main point is to prevent bacterial and fungal growth. Keeps it from rotting. Look at that. Chip there. But it's not supposed to be used for food stuff. And they bring this, and I'm like, that's not it. And they're like, well, we can't return it. They cut it to. I was like, great. Lovely. So I'm gonna have to find a way to use that on this. I'm thinking 2 of those 4x4 pieces, at least, right? I want to cut as little as possible using those pieces already, to make a frame to sustain a platform, right? So the platform can be one of these, but I think it needs to be wider than that. I might use the smaller ones, so maybe 4 of those or something like it. And then 2 of these along the length of it, maybe with some of these segments cut up. I don't want 90-degree angles, but I might have to settle for part of it being like that if I can put enough. So the boards are gonna. The board goes on the bottom like that, and then under the bottom part goes the frame, and then on the frame, I want some metal brackets to hold it in place, because it's going to be, a lot of shear or torsion stress. And to that frame, not to the boards, I need to attach something to keep it within some sort of railing, to keep it from sliding out too easily. Hopefully it's not going to be too top heavy. Most of the weight is going to be in the middle. Those, when they get cut up, are going inside above a gravel-filled reservoir, right? With a PVC pipe to go in to feed the water into the reservoir. The overflow is going to come out that way, right there. And so it's going to need a liner. It needs a liner on the inside to keep the water from touching the container, and then it needs a liner inside to keep the soil from going into the gravel. To keep the soil from washing out and clogging everything up. So that goes under the soil, and that's pretty much all the components. Right, and then once the railing frame thing, the brackets are in place too, I need plates to to tie at least 3 wheels, like here, and here. Actually, I don't know. Maybe even center center at maybe 4 would be fine. Usually going for 3 rather than 4 is more stable. Over time, pieces warp or uneven terrain, that sort of thing. So I might go for 4, but I want to go for 3. Yeah, so that's that. But look at the times. Already gonna be May. This tree's behind schedule. The dry rot fungus. It's still on this tree. This tree was set to not have any more significant trouble with the fucking fungus last year. It was supposed to have already gone through a whole year of not dealing with that. And now it's even further behind than December being moved over here, because other things like I'm getting told, no, the neighbors don't want humidity going over to their property. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, all you need to do is get down there. I'll fucking do it. You give me the fucking equipment and make sure, it doesn't throw the rest of my life out of order. I can get down there and I can put like a fucking impermeable liner, right? So the humidity doesn't get over there. It's not really like, and then they complain. They're like, don't water the trees because the humidity goes over to the neighbors. Man, that's their fucking, like, that's a planter. That's outdoors. Like, you want to go down to the city and ask them, look at how much the neighbors over here care about the humidity coming over our way. You see that? I don't know if you can see the mold. That right there, that spot right there in the paint, that spot in the paint, that's mold. That's mold on the plaster from the humidity. That right there, that's salt from how much water bleeds through from their side. That's from the humidity from the neighbors. So, like, if you want to go over to the fucking municipal or whatever, the city, whatever, to figure out what the specifications are to be able to do something like that without ever encountering a single fucking, legally defensible fucking complaint, let's go. Because that is so, like, what shouldn't take so fucking long is taking... So... They tell me the garden planter is the most they're willing to bargain with me for help. I already started that like years ago. I started breaking it up. It was taking a long time because that stuff is thick. The pieces that I broke off are still there. Fortunately, I was able to save them kind of complete. But they're pretty thick. And hard to get through with a little hand hammer, and so they have saw blades. I don't have a saw. I don't even have a hand saw that could cut wood with a blade. I think you need a diamond blade, one of the thick ones, to be able to score and cut this. So that's getting cut from about that level right there over. That's trees coming out when that does. That's getting cut right the fuck there over to about here, all the way back to that wall, which lets me take this tree out. They should get potted up. Ideally, that was supposed to go over there, but the heat is now coming up too soon, so it might be too stressful for the tree. Right, so that lets me work there, which the sewage line is somewhere there. I need to put a pipe, something probably that thick or thicker, needs to be vent diameter, up against the wall right there, so that the sewage line over here, I don't have to be smelling the whole city's fucking farts in the fucking this house's fucking bathroom, man. Every time the wind blows up the fucking storm drains, the fucking, I have to smell the neighbor's shit. Like, I haven't shit today. Why does the bathroom smell like shit? And if I don't have a seal on the fucking door, the rest of the fucking house starts smelling like it. So that'll let me do that. But obviously, delay after delay after delay after somebody wants to pay somebody to steal my fucking ladder or take a shit on my front fucking step, or they volunteered. But it's really fucking convenient. And today was lovely. I just walk out there. I'm just looking at the fucking trees, and these old ass fucking grandmas are trying to stare me down, like, say something, like looking at me like saying say something, like the stare they gave me, like they were just looking at me like, we dare you to say something. We know you heard our kids call you crazy. We know you heard it. I just look at them and I spit it at the ground. You know how many people would be kicking and scratching? I'd get lynched. I'd get the fuck lynched, man. I tried to take them up on their little... Like, just leave me alone. Just let me do what I'm supposed to be doing and stop telling me what you think that should be. Alright, so I'm gonna... Yeah, I thought I'd be getting into this. Here is another example of these. There's two here right now. I removed one already. Sometimes a tree chooses itself, you know. It already knows. It doesn't go for the redundancy thing. So, right, two main points. Masanobu Fukuoka says that, you know, you shouldn't be pruning trees. Pruning trees is actually interfering with the tree's natural growth. It's an artificial imposition that disrupts the tree's hormone balances and the tree's responses and stability in its own environment. Like, it knows what it's doing. I'd like to agree, for the most part, if you could afford such large swaths and such high quantity of land and plants and animals, flora and fauna, to go ahead and let it run wild, basically the method he approaches agriculture and horticulture as, then yeah, few, well-timed and deliberate decisive inputs or actions and integrations, and you and the system can coexist without all of this sort of stuff. But when you're surrounded by concrete and then they're not minding their own business, it seems really straightforward that cutting a few branches off a tree here or there, or all of them one time a year, most of them, all of them is, an exaggeration, but they went ahead and they did something just that bad when they thought they could just make... Anyway, and getting called crazy for it seems like, like, where are your parents, Grandma? Where the fuck are your parents? Why don't you go play dolls or some shit? Maybe if you'd played dolls instead of having kids, we wouldn't have this fucking problem. Right, so that's one thing, that's why you want to remove the branches after... Okay, pruning gets you stronger strength, right, and that sort of thing. You wanna remove certain growth because the tree is sending it out as a response to having been pruned, right? There's the roots weren't touched, so it still has the sugar stores, and it redirects the sugar stores, invests it in branches and leaves and that sort of thing, right? But what it does what it does in how it does it is it does it fast and with a level of redundancy. So I don't know if I took any pictures, but basically every single one of these has the potential to branch out. So there's 3 points on each of these branches, right? And I said that in the first thing. There's 3 points on each of these branches nodes, right? So every few inches, there's 3 all the way around. You choose one over the other because the redundancy isn't necessary when you already know the tree can't tell the future, but it tries to foresee its own needs and its demands and the environment into the future by coming up with the redundancy. So it'll shoot them up all the way around, and then eventually, later down the line, which will give you trouble, it'll let certain branches die. Like, so I could have, after I pruned it, already assuming that I did prune it, just let it all grow. Just let it all grow. What I wouldn't have is growth as thick and as strong as that right there. And it'd be bushier. The leaves would be smaller. Instead of this stronger stuff. Oh my god, man. How are they done yet? Okay. So some of the regrowth, even after I've put the pruning sealant on these, I've had to remove. Even on the apple, you can see direct growth. Right, so you'll end up with weaker growth like that instead of the stronger stuff like that. Now that's stronger not just because it's near the core, but also because I removed the competing branches, foreseeing that they didn't need to be so cluttered. So it can breathe easier, which means more airflow, which means it's able to metabolize better and it gets more sunlight, and there's less room for that sort of thing that happens when they bunch up and dead leaves start piling up on the inside that can't be shaken loose. Some of the regrowth that happens here will be a problem when it bumps into the wall right here, right? So I want like an open space up there and down through the canopy so that it doesn't have that. It doesn't have the problem of bumping into the wall, which the Argentine ants love. The Argentine ants love shortcuts from other trees bumping into. They love a plant that is stressed out. That's how they get in there, and they bring their aphids and they bring other pests. And apparently it's fruiting, or it's producing flowers, so I might have fruit again this year. But yeah, I'll have to do this one too. Not right now. I'm kind of more interested in doing that one as soon as possible. So now I will pause and I'll try to get to that.